Hi, I'm Justin Crosby and welcome to another episode of TellyCast. My guest this week is Naomi Channell, who's head of podcasts at Curve Media. Naomi,
Hi.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Justin. Nice to be here.
Yeah, great to see you. Thank you for coming in.
You're welcome.
We had a really, really great session with you and Rowan from Spotify at the recent How to Make Money in Digital event. So I was really keen to kind of pick up on that really and go into a little bit more depth because I think it's really interesting the case study that you've sort of developed and the podcast that you've developed through Curve over the last 2-3 years or so, and the success that they're having. So I thought it would be really interesting to sort of delve into that a little bit.
Absolutely. Let's go for it. Yeah.
All right. Well, first of all, tell us about how you got involved in podcasting right from day one.
So it's a bit of an unusual way in, I think. But so I've been a TV producer for 20 years, mostly in fact in a few documentaries, and spent most of my career at Curve Media, which we were formerly Cineflix UK. So I always did casting. It was always my thing, and celeb booking. And I'm from a town called Harlow in Essex, and most people drive through it, but for those that live there, there is a sort of true crime case that sort of haunts our town, really. If I was to say the name Stuart Lubbock, some people might recognise that. If I said the man that was found murdered in the swimming pool of Michael Barrymore, people usually then put the two together. So Stuart Lubbock was a local man, and I knew his dad Terry, and I knew Stuart's ex-wife Sue. And it's just actually gone 25 years since he died. And in 2021, Terry, Stuart's father, who had campaigned for justice for his son for so many years, he was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And they'd already had a Channel 4 documentary. It was called Barrymore Body in the Pool. And it was a really good documentary. And they looked at all the pathology reports. And there's a lot of sensationalism around that case. So the family got involved and they sort of brought it back to Stuart. When Terry died, just before he died, he was sad that he felt the fight was going to die with him. And Sue, who is Stuart's ex-wife, is just the most incredible woman. And despite the fact they were divorced, they were still really on really good terms. And she was so close to Terry. And I sort of approached her and I said, we could do something. And at the time, Serial and all of those other true crime podcasts that were kind of at the very beginning of the true crime podcast journey were out and they were doing really well. And I thought, okay, maybe I can offer to do a podcast. And I thought, well, I can edit, I can research, I can write, I can approach people. I think I've got everything I need. And then when she said, well, actually, we've got all the paperwork from the case because Terry's lawyer had it all. And they said, do you want to look at it? And so I developed a 6-part series and it did really well. I called it His Name Was Stuart Lubbock, and I've actually just reversioned it and re-released it because of the 25-year anniversary. And in 4 years of podcasting, you learn so much more. So I sort of made it a bit better and put it back out there, but the content's still the same. And after that went out, lots of families started to approach me and they would say, we really like what you've done here. Would you be able to do something with us? And I think it was because there was no sensationalism in it, which actually, being from a fact end background, was completely the opposite of what I was used to doing. But I think where the difference comes in, Justin, is in 2017, I had a friend who was killed by her partner. And when you've had that lived experience, you know what it's like when your loved one is reduced to a headline. So the natural empathy I think I had for that family must have shone through, and I'm quite meticulous in my fact checking. So when I was doing all of that, I think people resonated with it. It was slightly different from some of the other big true crime podcasts that were out at the time, and it's just built from there, really.
Wow. And so starting with the Stuart Lubbock podcast, was that video as well as audio, or just audio to begin with?
Just audio. So most of mine that I do are just audio. at Curve Media when I started doing sort of serialized cases so that they would be 6, 8, 10 episodes. And then I got to a point where my audience, I was growing an audience, and they were getting in touch on Instagram and on Spotify comments and saying, are you going to do anything weekly? And I thought, you know what? That is the way to do it. It's consistency, and I knew that. So I started putting out weekly episodes. It is a big undertaking when you're working full time as well for a TV company. But I get so much from it. And my bosses at Curve Media, Camilla Lewis and Rob Carey, they both sort of saw, they've always been very proud of the podcast and always supported me in doing that. And they said, you know what? Digital, we can see it coming. It's coming towards us. Why don't we reversion some of your podcasts for video form? And why don't we put them on YouTube, and we'll put them on Spotify video, and we'll see how that does. And it's really gone quite crazy on Spotify. We have fantastic download numbers. On YouTube, we're still trying to break through the noise. There's so many people that are doing amazing things on YouTube, but we've really found a home on Spotify.
Yeah. And so how many podcasts are you working across now, and what sort of genres are you finding that working? So
I've got 5 at the moment. So I've got Real, which is my baby, the one that started with the Stuart Lubbock case, and there's a variety of so many incredible, heartbreaking stories, but also stories of hope on that podcast. As a spin-off, I then do Real Lives. So I found that I was coming into contact with incredible people. I speak at events like CrimeCon, and you'll meet, one of my really good friends now is Colin Sutton. He's the man who caught Levi Belfield. Never thought I'd be friends with the man who caught one of the UK's biggest serial killers, but that's just the way it happens. And so I thought, well, actually, these people have got incredible lives. I'd really like to do a conversational, very much like this, a conversational podcast. Some of the people that come on are very sensitive stories and are survivors of crime. So I've kept that as audio only. And I've built up an audio only sort of audience base that they're not that interested in video. But now, thanks to Totally True Crime, I do have a video audience as well, and I found that they're completely different. I also do The Affair
right.
with Anna Williamson, so maybe we can talk about that in a bit, because it does kind of link to TV, but that's people coming on and talking about infidelity, and it's a story arc, so it's an anthology. Each episode is a different affair story, whether it's from the protagonist, from the person that was cheated on, or the bit on the side. That's opened my eyes just as much as True Crime has. And then I've also got one that's going to be coming out soon, and I'm working with 2 former police officers who are 2 of the biggest private investigators now in the country, and their casebook is wild. So I'll be helping them with that podcast as well, which will be video.
Wow. So you said 5?
Yeah.
5. And are they always on, or do you do, are we talking about 50 episodes a year, or are we talking about sort of 6-part episodes, like how you started?
So Real Lives, Totally True Crime, they're always on.
Right.
And then I've got The Affair is going to be a weekly podcast now. So it was in blocks of 8, but we now have the inboxes full of people that want to talk, and we've got the audience, so we're making that weekly. And the female PIs, that's always on as well.
Yeah. Wow. And so I mean, you don't have a great deal of time for much else, right? I mean, that's a lot of production, a lot of it's a lot of research, right?
A lot of research, and the one thing I'm quite bad at is delegating. So the only help I have across all of those is I have an editor to help me on Totally True Crime, but other than that, I do it all. So it is quite a lot, and I do still do the celeb booking and the casting for Curve Media as well. And I raise a couple of kids as well, and a husband, which actually is the hardest bit out of it.
Well, just thinking about true crime as a genre, because recently we had Rowan Collinson from Spotify on, And we were talking about what are the most sort of popular emerging genres, or genres already that are really successful on Spotify. And true crime and comedy were two of the ones that, you know, in particular, and obviously interview formats as well. Think about true crime. You talked about your approach to that as being non-sensationalist.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously a very, very sensitive area, all of the subject matter that you're dealing with. And also there's seemingly an insatiable appetite for true crime content out there, and big communities around it, as you said, CrimeCon and lots of other events and seminars and things around the world. You know, what's really informed your approach then to that? Because obviously, you could go a more sensationalist route, and maybe there are other true crime podcasts that perhaps are a little bit more in that direction. I mean, what sort of informed your choice to approach true crime in the way that you do?
I couldn't live with myself if I didn't. I think that the reason that people, and I'm very privileged to have people trust me and say, would you mind doing my story with me? I've probably got, it's got to be over 100 by now, families of people that have been murdered or survivors of crime, some of whom have never spoke out before, and they've come across the podcast and they like the tone. Am I the richest true crime podcaster? Absolutely not. I don't do it for the money at all. What I do it for is I almost see it as almost charity work, not in a patronising way to those who come forward, but all of us, I think, we like to donate our time and our resources to somebody or something. And victims of crime, survivors of crime, the families that are left behind, it's devastating. And if you haven't experienced that, and hopefully many people watching haven't, if you haven't experienced it, I think you can't really completely comprehend how much it weighs over you constantly, day after day. There's always going to be headlines written about your loved ones or your case. And what I wanted to do was to give people an opportunity to tell their story, so that if they did have articles written about them, if there was sensationalist headlines, which there have been a few recently, a few people that I've worked with who have been really upset because, you know, some journalists, they'll take some pieces of information from another article, they'll rewrite it, they completely miss the point, they maybe say the campaign name wrong. I've had something happen like that.
Or they may have an agenda, right?
Absolutely. They've got an agenda, and it completely takes away from what these people are doing in the midst of so much grief and so much pain. So to be able to be a friend to those people, as well as be someone say, do you want to come on and share your story? And the thing I do is that the families that I work with, the ones who come to me, they always get to vet the episode before it goes out. I would never, ever not give them that. Now, they also know that I editorially have to be fair, and they completely understand that. And we have a really long conversation before, but they will understand. And that has led them to then go to other survivors, victims, families, because these people find each other. They find each other through grief online groups. They find themselves through victims advocates who introduce them to other people, through charities and organisations. They have WhatsApp groups. There is a WhatsApp group of women of murdered children. And if you meet one of those and you do a good job for them and they feel empowered, they feel like their story has come across well, they will then tell you, tell their other WhatsApp group friends who have been through the same experience. Actually, I found a journalist and a producer that I can trust, and that's actually invaluable nowadays.
Well, it's obviously a vocation for you as well as it now, but being a commercial operation working across 5 different shows. But I think that what's really clear there is that, like you say, the medium of TV when you're dealing with true crime, there's always a gatekeeper, there's always a commissioner there who's giving notes. They may want the content to be perhaps more aligned to what their channel is looking to achieve, or what their corporate strategy might be for their programming. Whereas what you're doing is obviously you're taking away that gatekeeper and giving a voice to victims, families, or survivors directly there to the audience. So I can really see. I think that's the power of podcasting, isn't it?
There's the Stuart Lubbock case was a really good example of that, because Channel 4 wanted to call it Barrymore Body in the Pool, and they went along with it because they knew that the documentary was really well made. The two guys that made it, we know we know, being in TV, that's often a network
that's really
decision.
kind of insensitive, isn't it? I mean, if for the parents of somebody's been murdered, having their son reduced to a subtitle underneath it. I mean, we can understand why that's sensationalist title, and that's what's going to drive viewers, but reality is there's a real person involved
exactly there. And so when we were putting our one together, I said, tell me everything that's happened so far that you've really had bad experiences with in the media. Let's see if we can rectify those. And that's why we decided to call it His Name Was Stuart Lubbock. Will I win any prizes for that title? Absolutely not. But did I do right by the family and by Stuart? I think so.
Yeah. So obviously you've been a TV producer for how long? I mean,
20 years.
20 years. One of the things that we talked about at the recent How to Make Money in Digital event, and you can check out the video to Rowan and Naomi's conversation on our YouTube channel, was the relatively short leap that it does take from being a TV producer into podcasting.
Yeah.
And obviously the guys at Curve have seen the opportunity with digital as a way to future-proof their business, in the same way that many other producers are starting to sort of take it a little bit more seriously now. What do you think are the key attributes a TV producer has got to enable them to be a successful podcast business?
I think it's storytelling at its absolute core, because there are so many podcasts out there, how many millions probably, and some of them, and this is not to put down on anyone's work, some of them I like to listen in every form of my life. I'm in the car, at the gym, which I know is really strange to be on the treadmill with a podcast. Maybe it's not actually, maybe people do that. Before I go to bed at night, I listen to so much stuff. I'm always wanting to learn, looking at other people's work, what's good, what's not. And some people have great production value, but sometimes the storytelling is slightly jarred, or it doesn't quite flow in the way that someone who's, spent a month filming a 25-minute documentary might be able to do. You might be able to cut the waffle, I think, is a good bit, get to the point. There are a lot of podcasts that have a lot of filler. There's a lot of chat that's not really about the subject at all. In true crime, that is one of the things that I personally, as a listener, not as anything else, but find that I don't quite gel with. Because if you're about to talk about someone's murder, but then you're hearing about the school run, or the fact that, Ocado swapped your cucumbers for shoe polish or something that week, sometimes it's not.
It can go off into chat a little bit, as opposed to actually what you're listening to is something that's you're invested in, right?
Absolutely.
As a listener.
Absolutely. And do you know what? I'm sure there are plenty of those podcasts that are a lot of chatter that people do gravitate towards, if you really buy into the person. But if you're coming from TV production and nobody really knows you, then you've got to hook them in with something else. So in all of my podcasts, I did one Q&A session once, but that was it. I even did a 24-hour live podcast last year. I know, it was horrific. I was still tired, but it was because I wanted to give back. Because I think if you work in true crime and you do stuff there should be points where you give back. So I contacted victim support and I said, look, I'll do a sponsored 24-hour podcast, and every half an hour to an hour, a new person would join me on. So whether it was someone who works in like the police, a detective, a forensic psychologist. We also had so the best friend of Terence Woods, who went missing whilst he was working on Gold Rush out in America. So we had an appeal for information there. I had Hedley Thomas, who's one of Australia's most incredible journalists and podcasters in the whole world. He's just amazing. Having him on was like, for me, it was like Attenborough. Oh my goodness. And I did it in my like third to last 24-hour shift, so I looked like crap, and I don't know what I was saying, but somehow it worked. And I when I did that, I realised that even then, in that 24 hours, someone afterwards wrote me a message and said, I tuned in for a lot of that, and they said, not once did you put any filler in. You didn't really talk about yourself. I was wondering if we were going to get to know you a bit more. And I realised then that I structure every single minute of the podcast, which maybe I don't need to do so much, but every minute of that 24 hours, I mean, it took me months to arrange, but was catered for. There was always a question. There was never any chat that wasn't about the topic we were talking about in that half an hour. And I realised that then once I'd done that, I could put them out as episodes, and they received the same response and positivity from my audience than a pre-polished, edited episode would have done.
Yeah. So you talk about storytelling as being, super important, but there's also talent relationships, and really production is pretty straightforward when it comes to video, isn't it? I mean, it's a very straightforward shoot. So. What advice would you give to any indies who are considering moving into podcasting or looking at the digital first space and thinking, what's our play here? What's our opportunity? What advice would you give them?
I think it's always finding something that's not being done, which sounds really, really hard. But for example, so The Affair that we have with Anna Williamson. So that came from us trying to sell a series on infidelity, either as a documentary series or as like a factual drama, retelling stories. We quite quickly learned that casting that is a nightmare for TV.
Right.
So we were in a development meeting one day, and Rob and Camilla and Ian Taylor, my head of development, we were talking, and we were like, we know that drama, or if you watch any kind of drama on Netflix or anything, there's always an affair. There's always an infidelity strand in there somewhere. And we see it in, going back to Romeo, Juliet, all of these kind of really old books and stories that we've had for decades, centuries. Infidelity, secret relationships, they always sell. Then we came across a statistic that 1 in 5 people have had an affair, which is pretty mind-blowing. Yeah. So it's like, okay, what can we do? And we were talking about podcasting, and we just sort of all looked at each other, and there was like a moment of realisation, like, it's a podcast. Of course it is. It's a podcast. You don't have to show their face. Who's going to do it? And I'd had a pre-existing development relationship with Anna Williamson and her agent, and we loved them. We loved that she was bringing, she was very fresh in her approach. She's a Relate counsellor. She's got her own practice, but she's also great on TV. And she was also the host of Luana, the podcast, which is a really, really popular podcast, one of the most popular in the country. And so I approached her, and she loved the idea. So we thought, okay, this is a great way for us to it's proof of concept that we can get it to work. And if we can build a brand, then hopefully we can make sure that we, it's hard to say own the IP, but that we were kind of the first there to do it. Yeah. Because apart from your Take a Break, That's Life, Women's Own sort of magazines, you don't see much of it. You used to have it on Jeremy Cole, used to have it on Trisha. I started my career on Trisha. So affairs go right back for me. Yeah. But with this, again, applying that same sensitivity to it, I knew that Anna was, because she's a therapist and she has her own practice, we knew that she wouldn't come across as, completely sensationalist, out of whack. And we both approached it with, okay, let's make this a non-judgmental space, almost a bit like a confessional, but where Anna can also offer some takeaway for those listening and also the person that we're having on. It's not a therapy session, but sometimes it does get into territory where it does feel like she kind of pulls some strings together and a light bulb will go off, and the affair partner or the person that's been cheated on who's on the show might say, oh yeah, I'd never thought about it like that. And it's done amazing. I mean, we're up to about 350,000 downloads a month now. And we have a 45% male audience,
really?
Which I think surprises a lot of people. Yeah. And it's going from strength to strength. But that's a really good way of sort of how we developed an area that was sort of untrodden in that space. We won a British Podcast Award after the first series for the sex and relationships category, and it's going from strength to strength. So,
but what's interesting, I think, as well, is that you wouldn't have developed it in the way that you had if it wasn't for your experience as a TV producer.
100%. It came as an afterthought. But it's funny because now in development meetings we actually think both ways now. Yeah. We've got to the point where it used to be TV, and then, we might be able to do something else. Now we're thinking branded content, podcasting and TV, and where will it fit? Could it fit into all of them?
Yeah. So let's talk about commercials of podcasting. And I'm not going to ask you for any numbers in terms of, revenue and everything, but you've obviously got, I mean, give us a sense of the scale of the shows that you have now. You talked about the relationship one with 350,000
the affair,
a month, which is fantastic. So can you give us a sense of scale of some of the other ones that you're working on?
So For Real, which is my weekly one, bear in mind I'm not a celebrity and I wouldn't want to be, but that's about 250,000 a month. Real Lives has only been going since October, and I think I'm up to about 100,000 to 150,000 downloads a month with that one. Totally True Crime can do anything up to 400,000 a month, and the new one I have is obviously TBC, but I hope that we'll build a core audience like that.
So you're serving audiences of over 1 million people basically all the time, every week, if you like, and it's astounding. Yeah. So tell us about the commercial aspects of that. You're talking about Spotify first, really, as your sort of key platform. Give us a sense of the revenue on Spotify that you're earning versus perhaps other platforms like YouTube for the ones that are video as well. Yeah. Give us a sense of, because obviously for any indie who's coming into this market, it's like, well, how do you make money in digital?
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it?
It's hard, yeah. But equally, you're demonstrating that a TV producer's expertise can actually, absolutely deliver new shows and IP in the podcasting space and be profitable. So give us a sense of, what that might look like financially.
So on YouTube, we are yet to see anything of note. Sometimes it's not even 3 figures. Yeah. Because we've got so much competition there. With Spotify video, we've had real success because we have great partner management sort of relationships. So Rachel Simpson is our partner manager at Spotify, and she is brilliant, and she's always supporting us. I think the difference with Spotify is they really buy into their talent. So even though we can release it in other places, we're not exclusive to them. They do have a Spotify original section where they commission their own content. But for us, we just have a great relationship. So for example, we said to them, actually, we've got a case coming up that is really important to us to cover. There's a petition on the end of it. Is there anything you can do in terms of promo space for us? And she's like, yep, leave it with me. And we, where they can, they will help you. And then once the viewers start coming in, if you're doing video and you're hosting on Spotify for creators, you can get premium ad revenue. So that revenue is a higher, what we call a CPM, so cost per million, cost per thousand. And that is higher than, it's actually 5 times higher than it is on YouTube. So if you can see that as sometimes on YouTube, if you have 1,000 watches, you might literally get £2.50 for that, literally. Whereas it's much, much more, 4 to 5 times more on Spotify, generally, we find. So it does fluctuate. There are times in the year where some months are better for revenue than others. But ultimately, we monetize for Totally True Crime through Spotify video, a little bit from YouTube, and then for like The Affair and myself with the True Crime podcasts, we are hosted by Acast, and they have a great dynamic ad revenue setup. True crime is hard to monetize. That is definitely something I will say.
Because obviously there's not many brands that really want to be in that space.
Absolutely, and even as someone who, and please don't think it's me blowing the smoke to myself, but if you read my reviews on Apple, for example, they're so kind. They're very much like, this is empathetic, great journalism, that, there's no sensationalism. There's no, I never swear it unless, it's a quote. We'll never say anything derogatory unless it's a quote, It's very fact-based. And you could almost put it into news, really. And even at that, it still has a tough time monetizing sort of any host reads or anything, which is fine. As I said, I'm not doing it for the money, but with things like Totally True Crime, which is part of Curve Media, where I have to look at it as a business, doesn't mean you still can't have that empathy, but I do have to think, okay, how else can I monetize on this? So we are looking at different avenues where we can repurpose the content. So for example, there are platforms like Tubi who can also acquire your content. You can also join sort of other platforms within Spotify and Apple Podcasts, for example. The lovely Jamie East, he runs the Daily Mail Group. So he has several different podcasts under his umbrella, and they have a subscription model now, which is really interesting. Some people go off a Patreon. So if you're doing content where you are building a community, not just an audience, so you want people's feedback, you want people to talk to each other, maybe you'll have meetups, you'll have live Zooms. Patreon's a great way to do that. People, if they love your content and you become part of their routine, they won't mind paying £2 a month to support your work. And then aside from that, we've also, so with Totally True Crime, we've also taken that out to market for TV, and we've had a few networks that have come back and said, we're interested in potentially up-resing the videos and putting them onto our streaming services. I think we're all still, I feel like we're on the cusp of something quite exciting where it is all going to bleed into one. But at the moment, I think we're just like this. We're just on the precipice.
And just continuing on the point of monetization then, you're building communities who are super engaged. We often talk I often talk at TellyCast events about the octopus strategy, which is not my creation, but the idea of having your IP in the center and then different legs with different ways to monetize your IP. What are the different legs that you see, other than maybe Spotify is one of those? What are the different legs you see for some of your brands? Are you going to take any shows out live, for example, merchandising? How else are you monetizing?
So with True Crime, it's really hard to do that. With The Affair, we're in talks with book publishers at the moment. Look at book. We potentially are going to start having a Patreon because Anna is a therapist as well. So if we think back to the talent and who you've got, what could they offer a community? We found that there are so many people that every time we put a post out on social media to promote the latest episode, you can almost see people in the comments talking to each other, and we're like, we are building a community here. So we would do things like that. There are, so many podcasts have done amazing live tours, and I hope that maybe with the 2 PIs that I'm going to be working with, that would be an amazing live tour. we also it's also just different platforms as well. So even with the affair, we are actually currently putting that together to be video, because we know that soon Acast are going to have the technology to integrate Spotify video. So that was announced quite recently. Up until just a few months ago, we were you could put it on Spotify video, but if you wanted to put the audio anywhere else, you'd have to get a different RSS feed and send to them. Whereas now, if you're hosted on somewhere like Acast or Audio Boom, there is going to be the technology to have video podcasts on there. So we could then sort of monetize through Apple have just launched podcast video, for example. We could do the audio only, so things like Castbox and Global, people can go on there. So we're still sort of finding all the tentacles, I think, on that octopus.
Yeah.
But we do see different ones. And actually, off the back of my crime ones, there have been sort of soft approaches about doing books on specific cases as well. So that could be something that ends up happening as well.
So book publishing, live tours, and then essentially licensing content back onto other platforms as well, which is really exciting. And I agree with you. I think that is, we're really starting to see that becoming a serious commercial model in TV. I mean, it was just the other week I was up in Leeds for the football, and I very rarely watch TV anymore in terms of linear TV. So I sat on the bed, put the hotel telly on, and actually on Channel 4 and Channel 5 at the same time were two digital first shows.
Right, wow.
So TFI Friday, the reboot, and Piers Morgan Uncensored as well. Mm-hmm. And also both produced by News Corp, which is, again, a newspaper business. So this sort of amalgamation of media businesses and creating this IP and then being able to license that out is really exciting.
It is, and you never know what's gonna come from any of it. So I've had some emails in the past that have been really exciting. They've not always amounted to something, but when you obviously, if you find your audience, sometimes they will have like an idea. So one of my audience members, she works in PR, and she was like, do you know what? She works for a brand of hotels, and she said, I would really like to do a night of true crime, for example, within the hotel, and we'd pay you X amount, and would you do this? I had an offer to go to the Middle East to do some how to make a podcast over there. So sometimes the opportunities that come, they're not necessarily directly related to your content, but more to your experience. Yeah. So that's also something. And I was, aside from doing all of this, and I'm aware I sound a bit mad, I also was teaching one day a week at the oldest journalism school in the country. And I was teaching how to, it was actually originally journalism that I was teaching for the NCTJ, which is the National Council for the Training of Journalists. And they wanted to have someone with TV experience who would come in and teach broadcast journalism. I used to work on The Right Stuff back in the day. I've worked on a few different newsy type shows. So they got me in, loved the kids. It was down the road from my house. It was one day a week. It was really nice. And then I started getting offers from universities, for example, to say, would you come in and do some guest lecturing for, a week, and we'll pay you X amount. So the opportunities do come in very different ways. Yeah.
Well, it's I think it's such a fantastic case study, Naomi, for TV businesses who are really looking to venture into podcasting, creating their own IP, and seeing all the different ways they can monetize it. So congratulations on your success. So now it's time for Story of the Week.
Story of the Week.
So tell us what the TV or content industry news story over the past 7 days or so that's caught your eye.
So this is from lived experience that I'm glad that this is okay. So Spotify have now released parental controls to their free users. So they were on the paid premium plans and the family plans, and you could, like YouTube, you could set parental controls. But they weren't on the free one. So we do have Spotify family plans, so we were always okay. But I was very humbled one day when I was dropping my daughter off at school, who's a preteen, and one of the mums came up and said, oh, my daughter said you do a podcast. She's been listening to your podcast. Now, I obviously am like, is it the infidelity one or is it the true crime one? I don't think either of those should be listening to. And she was like, oh, I don't really know what a podcast is, and I was sort of explaining it to her. And I said, oh, this is what I do. And she said, oh God. Oh, okay. I didn't know she was listening to that. And I was like, oh, I wonder what's happened. So I said to my daughter, have you been telling people that I do a podcast? And she said, yeah. I told my friends you've got a blue tick. I thought that's such she still thinks I'm the uncoolest person in the world. So I don't really know where that's leveled up. But but then I thought, oh my goodness. And I did have to say to someone, was like, oh, it's really lovely that she's doing that, but actually she probably shouldn't be listening to the stuff that I do. It's probably not appropriate. So that was a bit of a learning curve. So when I saw that, it instantly made me think of that. And I thought, okay, because I'm not out here trying to traumatise preteens, So I think that's a really good move. So I'm really happy about that.
All right. Okay. And how about hero of the week? Who's your hero of the week?
Hero of the week. Okay, so there's a few, but I'm going to go. I'm not being a kiss ass, I promise, but I think it's got to be Rachel from Spotify. And I'll tell you why. Because she has opened doors for us, not just within Spotify for Totally True Crime, but also there have been some incredible people that are doing some amazing work that really want to break into podcasting. And they've got really important causes, but if they didn't have a connection to a platform, their podcast would probably just kind of have to find a way of cutting through the noise. And if they, these people don't have production experience. These are people who are trying to campaign for changes in the law, for example. So being able to introduce people and have that great connection to Spotify video has been invaluable. And Rachel actually came to me as someone who I think she'd listened to Real, which is my weekly one. And she said, have you ever thought about turning it to video? I'd really like to help you do that if you wanted to do that. And she's just been a continued support. And then I was called to my kids for like at least 4 seconds the other week because they gave me a billboard in Leicester Square and in Manchester at the Arndale Centre. And I went down and Spotify photographer took some nice photos and made me not look too ropey. And it was a real like, wow, look at Leicester Square, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to, we often don't pay homage to the people that help us along the way that are kind of in the background. So big thank you to Rachel at Spotify.
Yeah. Well, that's something that I've really noticed since I've got to get to know the Spotify guys over the last few months. And certainly it's very, very different to YouTube, which is basically, I mean, it's a scale thing, I realise that, but, good luck of getting hold of anybody at YouTube, whether you've got a question or anything like that. It's just, and I understand why, but I think, that sort of personal touch and that, editorial interest is really important, isn't it?
And just guiding us as well, because we are TV first in our heads, or we have been for 20 years. So it almost feels like she's sort of holding our hands as we're going through this uncharted terrain, should we say. Yeah.
By the way, we're not sponsored by Spotify, just so you know. Okay, and finally, who or what are you telling to get in the bin, Naomi?
Do you know what, Justin? I tell you what. There's a few things. I'm going to go for a rant. You can cut it. I'm using this as therapy today. Number one, I exchanged contracts on a house today. The stamp duty makes me want to cry. Yep. What is it? I probably sound very, very silly and stupid, but why have I got to find all the tens of thousands of pounds to move house? But also 5 o'clock meetings. Come on.
Yeah.
On a Friday.
Who does that?
Oh, I tell you what.
Are you going to name and shame?
No, because they're a commissioner. So
all right. A commissioner doing that as well.
5 o'clock on a Friday. I want to be at least halfway through an Aperol at 5 o'clock on a Friday, time to switch off. Maybe 5 o'clock meetings can get in the bin.
It can definitely get in the bin. Naomi, thank you so much for coming on TellyCast. It's been really lovely speaking with you.
Thank you.
And as I say, it's really inspirational what you're doing over there at Curve Media and all the podcast work that you're doing. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming on TellyCast.
Thanks.
Well, that's about it for another week's show. Thanks for listening. TellyCast is produced by Spirit Studios and recorded in London. We'll be back with another show next week. Until then, stay safe.